Thank you so much for coming back to the channel again for yet another video. Today, Jake and I will be embarking on a new series for the channel, My Brother Watches for the First Time. So today, it is currently Friday, March 12th. There was no new episode of WandaVision. We are currently on the 1-week break in between WandaVision and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So next Friday, we will be watching the first episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but seeing as today there was no Marvel episode of anything, we thought, what better than a time to start a new series? So yes, today we're going to be starting the My Brother Watches for the First Time series, and we're going to be starting with X-Men. So this is the original X-Men movie that came out in the year 2000. I was immediately 2 years of age at the time, so I doubt I saw it.
I was -3 years of age.
Yes, Jake was -3 years of age. It's been a long time since this movie was released, 21 years, well, probably almost 21 years. I've seen most of the movies within the Fox X-Men universe. It's been a long time since I've seen the first X-Men, but I have seen all the movies. Correction, I have not seen all the movies. I haven't seen Dark Phoenix. That was the last movie produced by Fox before Fox was bought by Disney. The Fox X-Men also has one of the longest running actors to play a superhero character, most similar to Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. They have Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine. So similar to how everybody loves Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man and will forever connect him to that role, Hugh Jackman will forever be connected to the role of Wolverine. I've seen all these movies. They're all pretty good. I can't wait to see what Jake thinks of them. I'll say before we pivot over to Jake, he's seen lots of the clips, the famous clips, like the Quicksilver scenes and probably some of the Wolverine scenes.
I know who Ralph Boner is.
Yeah, we all know who Ralph Boner is. He's not in this one, but we'll get to him. He's seen most of the famous scenes online, so this isn't a complete first-time viewing for him. He's also seen the movie Logan. He has seen that one in its entirety. So that'll be fun to watch too when we get to that one. But yeah, I'm excited to get into this, so let's see what Jake has to say. Any expectations for the first X-Men?
Not really. Like you said, I've only ever seen Logan. That was probably like 4 years ago when it first came out. My uncle picked me up from school and I watched Logan, and I didn't really understand the backstory, but that was a really good movie. And yeah, I know all the famous scenes. Like I know who Quicksilver is. I know that they like time travel or do something Days of Future Past. So I've kind of just seen like little bits and pieces of all the different movies through social media and YouTube and things, but I really have no idea what the plot of them are. I do know that since this movie came out, it was one of the first ones. It's before they go back in time. The guy who plays Magneto and Professor X, this is like an older version of themselves.
Yeah.
So I think we're watching in release order, so we're gonna watch the story that way rather than looking at their younger selves. So
yeah,
I'm just curious to see how the whole time travel thing plays out, and I'm sure this one will be a nice throwback because it came out before Spider-Man, and that's probably the oldest superhero movie that I've really watched and loved. So I'm hopeful that this will give me the same vibes as a Tobey Spider-Man movie.
This first X-Men trilogy that we'll be watching over the next couple weeks, along with the Spider-Man Tobey Maguire trilogy, they really paved the way for the kind of superhero movies that we have today within the Marvel universe. There was no like shared universes, but this was in essence a team-up superhero movie. It also served as an origin story for some characters. So movies like this and Spider-Man, when they came out in the early 2000s, they showed that lessons could be learned and more important themes than just action could be portrayed within superhero movies. So it's a good thing that these movies were made, or we possibly wouldn't have things like the MCU or the DCEU as they are today.
I think that's interesting. Firstly, I want to say I'm looking forward to seeing how good Hugh Jackman is, because I've heard he's iconic and like Robert Downey Jr., but to me, I mean, I didn't really grow up with it. I grew up with it, but I didn't really watch it somehow, so here I am now. I'm curious to see if I'll love him, or like I'm just curious to see how he does that role of Wolverine. And also, I thought that was interesting what you said, how this was one of the first big superhero movies, and it was a team-up movie. And and you were saying how everyone can agree that DCEU is probably not really as successful as the MCU was, and my understanding was that part of that was because they rushed into the team-up movie. They didn't really give an origin to Batman or Flash or Wonder Woman. They kind of just rushed into doing Justice League, and that made me think, well, this obviously was successful, but it seems like the first movie being X-Men is different from the MCU formula. Like they're not doing a Wolverine movie and a Magneto movie. They're just going straight into X-Men. So I'm curious to see how this was executed better than Justice League was. I'm sure it's going to be good, but I'm just so used to the Marvel format of setting up each hero individually before doing the team up. With this, it seems like they just kind of went straight into the team up, so I'm excited to see that.
Back then, when this movie came out, there wasn't a real formula like there is today that we see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where you have characters introduced in their own movies and then they later go on to join a larger team in movies like the Avengers team-up movies. I believe it was during the 90s that there was an X-Men animated series, so a lot of people were more accustomed to the X-Men already as a team, so it wasn't that far-fetched of a leap to just throw together an X-Men team movie, because I think a lot more people, when this came out, a lot more people knew a lot more about the X-Men, so it wouldn't have been as big of a shock as if Marvel had just, oh hey, here's the Avengers out of nowhere.
Well, I think that's also interesting because I think a lot of people knew about Justice League and Batman and Superman for sure before that movie came out, so they just royally fucked up with that.
Yeah, that's the thing about that DC has screwed up, is that the formula was set by the time they started to try to play catch-up to Marvel. The thing is, you can't play catch-up to Marvel, you have to follow the formula and build your own universe. They tried to jump the gun too quickly with Justice League, and it's just fallen apart. Hopefully the Snyder Cut is good. We got a week to go until that comes out, so I'll be very excited to see that. Not sure if we're going to do a reaction series to that or not, but we'll see when it gets here.
And let us know down below who you think is going to win, Kong or Godzilla.
Yes, yeah, we might do a reaction series to that too. We got a little bit more time before that comes out. Well, let's get into it. First, X-Men.
Mutation. It is the key to our evolution.
I know Wolverine is like super old, so I'm guessing this is the past.
Did you see what happened?
Yeah, he got separated from his mom.
Sure that's Wolverine?
Oh no, that's Magneto. What the hell?
Mutations manifest at puberty and are often triggered by periods of heightened emotional stress. I am urging the Senate to vote against mutant registration.
A girl in Illinois who can walk through walls. Rumors,
Prejudice
Ms. Gray,
around
are
me.
mutants
I kind
so
of agree with
powerful
him.
that they
He's got a
can
point.
enter our...
I'm looking for hope. I will bring you hope.
We are the future, Charles, not them. They no longer matter.
Whatever you do, don't hit him in the balls.
You said anything goes.
I got you for 3 minutes.
Listen to the audio here too.
Oh, there he is. Metal in his knuckles.
I know what you are. Lusting. You keep this up, you lose something else.
Oh. He has regeneration like Deadpool, right?
It's exactly the same.
So if that guy shot him in the head, he would be fine. Deadpool, they had to activate his mutation.
Exactly.
When they come out, does it hurt?
Every time.
Oh no. It feels like a different character than the old guy that I saw in Logan.
Yeah. This is Scarlet right here.
Yeah.
There's some really...
Oh, I recognize those guys. And I know the other lady's name is Storm.
That guy, the guy spray painting, that's Ray Park.
The Darth Maul guy.
Yeah, he's who plays Darth Maul.
Where's the mutant now? With them. Where are you going? This way. He's over there. Would you like some breakfast? Where am I? Westchester.
New York.
What's a Magneto?
A very powerful mutant who believes that a war is brewing.
What do they call you? Wheels?
I may be able to help you find some answers. Cyclops, Storm, and Jean were some of my first students. Like your friend Rogue, incapable of physical human contact.
Curious though,
I met a young man named Eric.
why Magneto's a villain, because I've seen that he's like...
Believing that humanity would never accept us, he grew angry. He became Magneto.
I think he should work with Professor X to make sure that the mutants don't become
If
criminals.
this were up to me, I'd lock them all away.
Yeah, that's messed
It's a
up.
war.
I'm basically Team Tony.
You know, people like you are the reason I was afraid to go to school as a child.
Metal is an alloy called adamantium, supposedly indestructible. Uncharted regenerative capability, which enables him to heal rapidly.
Whatever you do to me, you'll make me right.
I think what you really are afraid of is me. The Brotherhood of Mutants.
What do you intend to do to me?
Let's just say God works too slow.
Telekinetic, I can move things with my mind. I also have some telepathic ability.
Like your professor?
Nowhere near that powerful.
Must just burn you up that a boy like me saved your life, huh?
Somebody help!
So she like touched him and got his powers for a
Yeah,
second.
she like absorbed.
Well, Professor X needs to be the one talking to the government about mutants.
What the hell have you done to me? Who would take you in now that you're one of us?
You've become the very thing you swore to destroy.
Professor Xavier's furious. I don't know what he'll do with you.
That was the
More
blue
powerful mutants out there. Why should this one be? This device amplifies my power, allowing me to locate mutants across great distances.
Like mind control, mind manipulation.
Basically, yeah, but only within a certain vicinity.
Where's my motorcycle? I'm sorry about last night. There's not many people that'll understand what you're going through. But I think this guy Xavier's one of them. Give these geeks one more shot. Come on, I'll take care of you.
You must be Wolverine. Remarkable metal. Whoever said I wanted you?
That's enough, Eric.
Let them go.
Why not come out where I can see you, Charles?
Is Charles controlling his minion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Goodbye,
Yeah,
Charles.
but he can't control Magneto because of the helmet.
Fight with us.
Fight with you, or join the team, be an X-Man. Magneto's right, there's a war coming.
I was afraid if I went to
Power
hospital,
level, basically.
treat you like a mutant. We're not what you think.
He's like looking inside his memory.
The machine emits radiation that triggers mutation in ordinary human beings.
The heck? Oh, that was nasty.
Yeah, I remember this scene.
I know where Magneto's going.
There is no land of tolerance. There is no peace. All families destroyed simply because they were born different from those in power. The world's powerful will be just like us. Your sacrifice will mean our survival.
The torch.
Funny.
Right, back up.
That's hilarious.
You know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
You're not part of the group.
I thought,
He just died.
Those claws of yours in a safer direction. Those people down there, They control our fate and the fate of every other mutant.
What's that guy's name again?
Sabretooth.
Have a shot. I'm taking it.
So he's too late. But now it is. Her hair is white. I kind of recognize that.
Yeah.
Welcome back. I knew you'd find your way.
Abandoned military compound at Alkali Lake in the Canadian Rockies, close to where we found you. You might find some answers. Continues to draw support.
Mystique.
I'll be back for this.
And come for you. And your children. The great swell of pity for the poor soul who comes to that school looking for trouble. The war is still coming, Charles, and I intend to fight it.
So he said there's a war still coming.
Yeah. There were quite a few things that I didn't remember that happened in this movie. It was a really good movie. I'm glad we watched it. I'm glad we're starting this series. So, that being said, Jake, what did you think of the original X-Men movie?
It was pretty good. It was definitely a early 2000s movie. I liked Hugh Jackman in it. It was really interesting to see. I didn't know that, what's his name?
Magneto.
I didn't know that Magneto was a villain, because I've seen bits and pieces of the prequel movies with their younger selves, and it's like I didn't know he was a bad guy, but this movie was a pretty good setup. I thought Mystique was pretty cool. I was kind of sad when she died at first.
Yeah, that was something I was a little confused about.
I actually thought she legitimately died there, and then just the prequel would be herself before she died, but apparently she didn't, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I was a little bit confused during that scene because I know she does pop back up later.
Hugh Jackman did pretty good. He's kind of he's not. I was trying to think, like, does he remind me of Robert Downey Jr. or anyone like that? But he's kind of he's his own character, and he's really good with it. I'm not really super excited for these ones because they're older, and I don't really have as much nostalgia towards them, so they're not really, like, it's not really as fun to watch as it would for other movies that I grew up with. But I am looking forward to watching the more modern X-Men movies.
I think I enjoy the prequel movies more that showcase the young Charles Xavier and Magneto, just because they're more modern movies. While they're chronologically set earlier than this movie, they're filmed in a more modern aspect, and the graphics are better and everything. So I think I enjoy those ones better. And that's another thing too, that Magneto in those, he's not, like in this movie, he's clearly a bad guy, and he's just seems more evil in the plot of this movie, whereas in the prequels, when he's younger, he doesn't seem all evil or all good. He seems much more evenly balanced in the prequel films. What did you think of Hugh Jackman's physique in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, he looked fit. I don't think he looked as fit as like I said, they had to do a mandatory shirtless scene.
Yeah.
He's definitely like fit. He's really in shape, but he didn't look as like super muscular like Chris Hemsworth or anything. But he's still, yeah, he's in superhero shape.
I think he might have gotten the part or realized he got the part like only a month or 2 months or maybe even only a couple weeks before he had to start filming. So he really quickly needed to try to get in shape. And it's evident in this movie compared to later films where he plays Wolverine. Nobody would say he was in bad shape for this movie.
I didn't want to say he's in bad shape, but compared to others.
Compared to other films, yeah, it's nowhere near what he does later on. Magneto, yeah, obviously he's a villain, so you weren't aware that he was going to be a villain in this movie?
The only thing that I really knew, and I kind of got reminded of it when I saw him in his plastic cage at the end, was I have this memory of watching a scene from one of the movies, where it's the older version of Magneto, and someone like helps him, like they need him, and someone helps him break out of his cell. So I guess I kind of knew, I just forgot that he's like a bad guy when he's older. But it seems like he's not really bad. It kind of reminded me of Civil War a little bit, how they were arguing about what the government and what the world should do with mutants.
Yeah.
And he seems like he's just more like Captain America, but he's kind of just being a maniac about it.
Yeah, so the scene that you're talking about at the beginning of what you were saying, you'll see that all play out in the sequel X2.
Yeah, I'm guessing that like the war he's talking about does come, and then they need him, or they need him for some fight.
Yeah, basically, you'll have to wait and see. That's kind of the whole overarching theme of the X-Men in general, not just specific to this movie, but just the X-Men overarching storyline as a whole is very similar to Civil War in the MCU, is that neither side is really wrong, and that's what's established from the beginning of this movie, is that government and legislation is trying to enact laws or legislation, make mutants revealed. Actually, behind the curtains, be doing more things to oppress mutants. So Charles Xavier and Eric Lyncher, that's Magneto's real name, they both have very different opinions on how the mutant society should handle and or cooperate with what the rest of human society is wanting to do.
I think it's understandable for them not, like my first impression, like one of the very first scenes when they were talking about how if there's this mutant girl who can phase through walls, who's to say she's not going to go rob a bank? And I think it's understandable for them to not just want them to be completely hidden and roaming free, because then you never know who, it makes the world feel less safe to everyone else. I think that's fair, but it's clear that the government is just, yeah, probably going to oppress them. So I think if they could just work with Professor X, who is like having this academy and teaching them, they could bring mutants into the world, and they could just be civilians like everyone else. That guy who was just saying lock them all up, that's
the senator.
The senator guy, yeah, who was kind of a dick. At first I thought he had a point that yeah, they can be dangerous, but I think the answer is just to work with Professor X and to not, because I think being aggressive towards them and oppressing them and trying to lock them up is just going to make the divide even more and lead to conflict and lead to a war.
Yeah, exactly what Magneto wants.
Yeah, Magneto almost like wants, he wants war, like he wants everyone to be mutant, and then the government guy wants everyone to not be mutant. I think they need to just work together and figure out a way for them to live together, because the mutants are really just normal people. They're just mutant.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think, yeah, they just need to work together.
Magneto,
not have a stick up their butt on both sides.
Magneto, because of his past traumas, starting with the Holocaust, he doesn't think humanity can change and understand mutants. So he just wants, in this movie, Magneto wants to bring everybody to the mutants level, so to speak. The thing that's shitty about the senator and government that he's representing, for starters, he's just a dick, like you said. Him and government that he's working with are kind of saying in the movie, from that opening statement and the opening scene when they're in the Senate chambers, that, yeah, and like you have a point, that they have a point, that, yeah, what's to stop a mutant girl that can run through walls from entering a bank vault and stealing a bunch of money? But to that point, they're also judging all mutants based on an assumption that this mutant who can run through walls is going to do that. So that's why it's kind of wrong in one hand to just judge all of them based on that.
Yeah.
Like you said, if they would just sit down and work with and speak with Professor X and come to a more reasonable kind of negotiation or strategy to move forward, that's exactly what would fix everything. That's kind of what happens later in the film when the senator, he's taken by Magneto and he gains mutant abilities by what Magneto does to him with the machine. He escapes and makes his way to
the Mutant Academy.
Mutant Academy, yes. He makes his way there, and when there's a scene where the senator, he's laying on the table and Professor X is in his wheelchair right at the side talking to him, and he basically says, why didn't you go to your allies, to your government officials, and before the senator has a chance to answer, he says, Professor X says, because you think they would treat you like a mutant. So he's just proving to the senator that his ill-mannered thoughts, that he views mutants as some bad, dangerous thing when they're not. They're really just humans with these abilities. And not all of them are bad. Most of them are just good people that are scared because of how the world sees them from a prejudiced viewpoint.
It says a lot about society.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch this movie almost 20 years later. That whole Civil War aspect of neither side is wrong. They just need to work together and come to an understanding, and that's a viewpoint that you'll see over and over and over again throughout all of the X-Men movies by Fox.
It was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it. I wasn't really blown away with it. It was pretty average. I mean, it was kind of just a good setup.
And judge it by a movie 20 years ago as compared to what we're used to with team-up movies nowadays. Yeah,
well, I'm trying to think, what are some other movies like the first Spider-Man and X-Men, and I'm trying to think of some other movies around, like the 2003 Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of why I enjoy the Sam Raimi Spider-Man and the 2003 Hulk movie is because I grew up with those, because honestly, they're not really the best movies.
It has that nostalgia factor.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the effects were fine. I think you could tell it was outdated, but I mean, I don't think they were bad by any means.
That's an argument that you could talk about with the first Spider-Man too, is that I don't think they're bad at all, watching it today, but you can just tell that they are dated.
Yeah, I think for the tools they had, they did a really great job.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put it on the same level as any of the MCU movies, but it was still pretty good.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you liked it. It's a really good movie, and like I said, this movie and the first Spider-Man and really the first Christopher Nolan Batman, they all paved the way for the MCU and superhero movies that we have today. So we all need to really appreciate this movie for what we have now.
I would have loved for there to be a crossover between Tobey and Hugh Jackman.
No doubt that Marvel Studios nowadays is going to be utilizing the multiverse, so I would not put it past them. I wouldn't put it outside of the realm of possibility that we wouldn't see, or that we won't see any of these characters. It's completely possible that we could be seeing some of these Fox X-Men characters or Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in the near future. So yeah, we'll have to just wait and see. Really enjoyed the X-Men. Sounds like Jake did too, for the most part. Let us know what you think down in the comment section, any opinions you have about the original X-Men movie. Go watch it on Disney Plus. If you haven't seen it, it's a really good watch. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed. Consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more fun content like this. Remember, next Friday we'll be watching The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on the regular My Family Watches for the first time series. I'm not sure if this My Brother Watches series is going to be on a week-to-week basis, but we'll see moving forward with all the MCU shows that we have to do in between.
This is less of a priority.
Yeah, this is less of a priority because it's not a strictly week-to-week thing like the MCU Disney
We're
Plus
about 20 years too late.
Yeah, we're 20 years too late. If you haven't already, turn on that notification bell so that every time we put out a new video, you'll hear about it. You can watch all of our fun and good opinions. Have a great rest of your day or night, wherever you are. We'll see you next time. Take care.